Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Every Damn Friday. We're very lucky today. We got one of the young bucks of the Kentucky music scene, Mr. Hunter Flynn. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
If I was any better, I'd be twins. I'd be Hunter Flynn if I was any better, and I'd be about 25 years younger too.
Shoot.
So where'd I find you today? At home?
No, man, I'm at my buddy's house up in Richmond, Kentucky today.
Okay, awesome. Now, you are from Somerset, am I right? The
That's
Somerset
right.
area,
Yep.
the greater Pulaski, Cumberland Lake area.
Yeah, about everybody from Pulaski County just says we're from Somerset because nobody knows where Pulaski is. So
Well, you got one right here. I know where Pulaski is. Now, did you
there you
go?
go.
Which high school did you go to?
I went to Southwestern High School.
Okay, I see. You know Mr. McDonald?
I do know Mr. McDonald.
He's my dog.
Oh
Uh,
yeah?
yeah, I taught agriculture for a long time, so he's one of my buddies.
Hell yeah, man.
Cool, cool. Enough about Somerset. Well, except it's just for now. First of all, Hunter, the first time I saw you live was pre-Sturgill
Oh yeah?
at the concourse at Rupp Arena. So that was a pretty cool gig. Uh,
Yeah, man.
and I'm sure you went and watched the show after that, didn't you?
Oh yeah, no, we bought tickets the second that it went on sale. I didn't know that I was playing that until a good 2 or 3 weeks after the tickets went on sale.
It was it was a cool night, and it was a treat because I'd sent Tiffany a message or something, and people were like, "Who's coming to see Sturgill?" And she's like, "Get there early because Hunter's playing," and so she's like big sis, and she's
Oh
out
yeah,
there rooting for you, man.
Tiffany's awesome. She's helped me out quite a bit, and she's always bringing talent to our area. So I'm
Listen,
lucky to know her.
I had no reason to go to Somerset in my whole life because I don't have a classic car, so I can't do the cruising. And but Master Musicians Festival and Jericho Woods, that was one of our bucket list festivals, and we were lucky to get to play that. And then I was the year John Prine was there, I was the artist in residence for visual art, and
Okay.
got to meet John. And then that painting of mine was in Jarfly for
Yeah.
forever. I think it's at Tiffany's house now, but
Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
that's a
I played
special place
underneath
to
that.
me.
I played underneath that painting whenever I first started going to open mic nights. So
Heck
I
yeah. Let's talk about that. Is that kind of where it got started? I mean, just there in town?
Yeah, as far as like once I started, sharing my art and music with people, Jarfly was, it created a safe place, kind of a safe environment to where you could get behind that mic and say pretty much whatever you wanted to, and
Daniel
people
didn't
would,
care.
yeah, no, people would accept it, and he gave you free reign to express yourself. So,
So before that, like up in your bedroom, like
yeah, man,
just pounding out the trying to learn Tyler Childers songs
that's right. That's exactly right. I didn't pick up a guitar until I was 18 years old. I grew up in working in my dad's pawn shop, and I'd always been around them, tuning them up, cleaning them up, putting them out whenever they pulled out a pawn. And uh, I guess it was probably not too long after my senior soccer season that I realized that sports weren't going to last forever. I'd already blown out a knee and could feel
Yeah.
the other one going, and so I decided that we're gonna try to do something that I could do for a long time.
What
And
so parents like 100% on board. I think I saw them there that night.
oh yeah, yeah, no, they've mom and dad have always been very encouraging as far as they wanted me to do whatever I wanted to do, and kind of their only rule was if you start something, you got to finish it.
There you go.
And that's just kind of the mentality that I have about everything still to this day. But no, they've always been very creative minded. Dad, left home at dropped out of school, left home with like $42, and ended up owning his own business for 25 years. So he's real open to trying to create something for yourself.
So that's awesome because I didn't quit my job to play music until I was 35. And I had a wife and three kids and had a lot to lose. And my dad at the time was like, "What the hell you doing, son? Like, you got a retirement, you got all this stuff." And but he had done the same thing. He had had a job for 20 years and quit and did something else. I'm like, Like you did
Yeah.
it.
You
But
said
he,
you set the
but
example.
parents just get they're supposed to worry about you, and that's
Oh
good.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh, you don't, but you don't have a wife and kids in the house and in a farm, so you,
That's the truth right
and that
there.
has to be nice. I mean, because I'm an old man coming. You only become wise because you've made a lot of mistakes and you've learned from them. But as a young guy, like it must be exciting to just you kind of feel like you're just free as a bird right now, right?
Oh yeah, I mean to some extent, definitely more free than if I had a wife and kids and a place
Don't get in
that
a
I had
hurry.
to. Right. Well, that's what they keep on telling me. But I mean, I've got a little sister who's 13. I got three siblings. I got an older sister who's 29, a younger brother who's about to turn 21, and then a little sister who's 13. So uh, it's kind of like being an uncle almost to the little
Yeah,
sister.
yeah.
She's so I'm trying to stick around and kind of watch her grow up and go through
And
life.
and like and headlock boyfriends and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Be like,
exactly,
no, 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 no,
exactly.
no.
They got That's what me and little brother are there for. Make sure that they stay afraid. But
Exactly.
but no, yeah.
So, but now, like, when did you start kind of like what was the catalyst to, past Jarfly? Like, so what was the next step?
So, well, I'll take you back a little bit further than that. Like I said, I picked up a guitar at 18, and me and my buddy, actually the buddy's house that I'm at right now, we learned enough to like cover a couple songs that we liked. Learned Wagon Wheel and all the your stereotypical covers,
People
and
love them.
then I never really touched it again. I went to EKU for originally majored in biomedical sciences and thought I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. Had a full academic scholarship, and I did that for about 2.5 years. And then we had a close friend pass away, and just kind of woke me up to. I was like, I don't like this actually. I don't. What am I spending my time doing? So
Between
we
that
switched.
and COVID and all that stuff, you're just like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
am I
So
doing?
that's where I switched to art after that. I ended up taking a drawing class that kind of changed the way that I saw the world and really opened my eyes to how what my potential was with art in the visual aspect and drawing. I loved doing charcoal stuff and painting, and
Now, at
so
that moment, though, as supportive as your parents are, were they like
that's I
what?
always
You're
make
going to
that
be a
joke.
doctor, and now we're going to draw cartoons. Like,
No, that's what I mean. I think there's people in my family that were kind of like, "What is he doing?" But no, mom and dad never actually said anything to me about their big thing has always been, "We want you to be happy," and that's I felt like that was the right decision to make. Turns out that it was, but at the time I wasn't real sure about that. So I ended up graduating with a degree in graphic design and immediately decided to not use that and started selling life insurance. And
oh, this is
yeah,
fun.
yeah. So I
But
kind
but
of
look,
felt.
but look, if like I'm just going to start checking the boxes. So graphic designer, very
Mhm.
important to someone who is probably doing a lot of their own social media, a lot of probably their own album art, their own posters.
Yep.
Uh, Two, sold life insurance. If you can sell life insurance, you can probably sell beer at a bar while you're singing songs. So you've checked two of the boxes so far with these career choices. So go ahead.
Right, right. So, well, I want to get this out of the way too, because for some reason I have been labeled as the former insurance salesman. That's popped up in a couple articles about me. I worked in a pawn shop for like 20 years of my
That's a
life.
lot. That's a lot more rock and roll.
And I worked in the food industry. I worked at an Olive Garden for a while. I worked for Home City Ice, delivered ice,
There you
and
go. Ice Ice Baby.
whatever I had to do, and I don't know if anybody can if I'm past the point of being able to get in trouble for this, but I sold a little weed on the side too, whatever I had to do to get
Hey
to
man,
get by, you know.
there's people fighting over those licenses to sell do the medical dispensaries
That's
right now.
right.
So
Yeah,
you're
I
just
saw
ahead
that.
of the game. That's all.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So anyway, I started selling life insurance and I wasn't actually a very good salesman because we traveled, we ran leads and it was targeted for low income, fixed income type. places. So we were traveling anywhere within 8 hours of Louisville. We were hitting Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, places like that. And some of these places, like I said, I worked in a pawn shop. I've seen all walks of life. I've seen
Yeah.
the most desperate people in the world. And
Bringing in their wedding ring.
yes, and some of these places that we were going to sell insurance were, was the worst shaped people that I've ever seen in my life. And I'm walking in trying to sell them something that I don't really feel like that they need.
Yeah.
And so I'd walk in, they'd be like, "Oh, I don't know if we really want this," and I'd be like, "Well, I don't blame you." And we'd sit
Yeah.
there and we'd
You
shoot the
probably
shit.
need groceries more.
Yeah.
I'll talk
So
to you later.
so I wasn't a very good salesman, but I was still, there's some people that just that's what they want. You walk in, you make the sale, and it was better money than I ever made before.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I was dreading it, and dreading getting out of bed, alone all the time on the road. You know, so I called my dad one day and was telling him, about it. He's like, "Man, just quit. What are you doing? Quit."
All right. Box number three, heartache, loneliness.
Yeah,
Listen, you're checking all the boxes. All right, keep
yeah.
going.
So he tells me just quit, and I'm like, I can't. I'm making better money than I've ever made, and at the time I did have a girlfriend, and I was like, and I got to have a job. Don't want be able to, I don't want to disappoint her or anything. And not too long after that, I guess another month or so had gone by. I found myself on I-75 headed north, and I drove this old '99 4Runner. It was my dad's before it was mine, and bald tires, and it was raining pretty hard. And I came out from underneath this overpass and started to hydroplane. And I turned completely perpendicular, saw the headlights coming at me, and realized that I didn't have a seatbelt on. And in those moments, I realized that it's probably the end of my story. And I'd done absolutely nothing that I was proud of. I'd left nothing behind for anybody, and I was thinking, like, what are they going to say about me? And in those moments, I realized I'd wasted 25 years of my
They
life.
would have said insurance agent dies in a car crash because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. What an
Ex-
idiot.
exactly. So I flipped 3 times across all 3 lanes of traffic. I remember closing my eyes, let go on the steering wheel, thinking to myself, I'm not ready to die. I'm not ready to die. And whenever I opened my eyes, I was upside down in the passenger seat, and the ceiling was touching the driver's side headrest. The phone that was in my lap was about 45, 50 yards away in a ditch. Took me 15 minutes crawling around on the ground to find it. But I had a King James Bible in my back seat that when I kicked open that passenger door, it was a foot away from the car, face up, staring me right in the face. And if that's not a sign from God, then I don't know what is. I ended up quitting that job the very next day.
As soon as you found your phone in the ditch, I
Yeah, it's the
quit.
first person
You
I
son of
called.
a bitch. Don't you call me ever again.
Yeah, so I quit that job the very next day and I moved back home, which, felt like a big couple steps backwards. I'd been gone for 7 years, and I moved into my grandma's basement, and started doing hyperrealism charcoal portraits to pay the bills. People were sending me pictures of, uncles, aunts, cousins, babies, whatever. And
Yeah.
I was
Hey, I got the art hustle on the side. I know what you
yeah, yeah, you know how it is. And in my free time, I was starting to write more and more songs, and started going to Jarfly and doing open mic nights. And I actually wasn't just Jarfly. Once I started doing it a little bit, I was hitting every open mic night within 3.5 hours. If I heard about it and I'd never been there before, you bet your ass that's where I was going. But after a couple months of that, somebody asked me, what do you charge for full set? And I said, whatever the hell you're paying. And that was February of
will you feed me
2022.
and give me some free beer and
That's right. Yeah, man. Ever since then, up until this past run to Texas, I had never had to send out an email. I was fortunate enough that word of mouth and the community that we've got here for music, enough people kind of passed my name around to where I had, gigs coming in pretty consistently all the time. And, in the beginning, I was just hopeful that I could get one or two of them a month and help pay the bills, help out with the art side of things.
yeah,
And, then it turned into I didn't have time to keep drawing. I was always on the road doing all that. So I've been doing it now for 2 years and a little over 8 months. So
no sign
time
stopping now.
time has flown.
That
But
that do you find because I think my ADD is my superpower, but it like if I do too much music for too long, then I'm like, I gotta I gotta cleanse the palate. So then maybe I do art for a while, and then like my real job, like I can really get into it sometimes, and it's a nice break from the artistic side. So it's like, do you
Yeah.
find yourself kind of going back and forth with stuff?
Absolutely. That was the thing that second year that I did it. I think I played 111 shows in that year, and by the end of it, I was ready to quit. I was ready to never do it again. It was I didn't allow myself any time to recharge. I didn't allow myself to do the things that I enjoyed doing. And so this year, I have tried to be a lot more particular with what I accept and what I'm doing, try to be more efficient whenever I'm making big long runs out of state and stuff like that. And
You said something that's really smart, and I'm going to interrupt. I'm sorry,
no,
uh,
you're fine.
but coming from a guy who quit his job and was doing whatever it took to try to make it work, right? And Jericho Woods, we had a good run, and we videos on CMT, and like we had some really cool things happen for us. Um, but we did get in a place where there was some desperation. It'd be just month to month. Like we had five guys, and we had to pay everybody. We had to keep the band together. We had to keep them busy. We had to, you know, so that meant maybe you're playing Austin City 4 hour set for $1,000 because everybody gets 200 bucks. So it's like I think you're really smart to, and that didn't help our career, right?
Right.
That didn't help promote our music. We were playing Colin Baton Rouge and you know Grundy County Auction,
Yeah.
salt. Like we were playing whatever they wanted to hear because we were trying to get that was work that night, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you're real smart to say no. I'm going to do these things. Do it. Sturgill's a perfect example. I remember that after Meta Modern, they I remember watching a interview with his booking agent, and they said he could have been on every festival that next year, and we just said no. He's just going to do this one, and this one, and then and leave them wanting more. It's like
Yeah.
he's overexposed, and um, I think you're smart to curate this stuff. Because you're trying to build a career. You're not trying to.
That's
You
exactly
don't want it
right.
to be a job.
I tell you, you just had someone come play out at your barn that helped me quite a bit with just understanding before I really ever got into it what was important in this industry. And Nick Jamerson, I met him whenever I was, I don't know, 14 years old, and it's kind of the first person that ever
Oh,
saw from this area that was actually doing it, that was living through playing music.
and I'm getting
And
tired of talking about Nick every time I have a podcast. Um, but
he,
but just to be honest, when he was on my podcast, we talked about it a lot that he could be so much bigger if he wanted to be, and he's really trying to strike a balance. And it's inspiring to me because I still look at other people and or look at like who's playing at the Borough this week or who's playing this festival or that festival, and there's part of me, the old me, and the present me, who is who looks at that and goes, I want to be doing that thing.
yeah, yeah,
But when I'm really being honest with myself, no, you don't. You want to be able to do things exactly the way you want to. I want to record when I want to record. I want to have shows in the barn at the same frequency I do it now. I want to spend time with my kids. Like if you're really being honest with yourself, I want to do cool things, but I don't want to do everything.
right. You
And
want to
he's
do the cool, you can
and
do
he's
cool things whenever you want to do them.
yes, he's made that choice. He's chose to be an artist. And I
Yes,
think
and
that is the example that he's setting for guys like you.
yeah, well, that's what, and I was naive. I remember being like 22 or 23 or something,
How
and
old are you, Hunter?
I'm 27 now.
Well, you're older
But
than I thought.
hey, that's everybody always tells me that you should see me without the mustache. Then
Get my
everybody's
cigarettes in.
yeah, I know. Everywhere I go, I get ID'd. But no, whenever I guess I was 22 or something, which before that, I'd say I was 18 or 19, and I was around Nick somewhere, and he heard me kind of singing and messing around with a guitar, and he told me that I should write songs. And that's the first time that anybody had ever told me that I should write songs. And so that kind of stuck with me. But then I remember again at like 22, 23, I was starting to play more and more and, working through stuff and seeing people play live music at the bars that I'm going to in college and stuff. And I kind of texted him. I was like, I've been thinking about trying to do music for a living, and which was a very naive and kind of,
Man, I
looking
want to be
back
a
on it.
rock star.
Yeah, looking back on it, I couldn't believe that, I was like, man, I couldn't imagine one of my like friends that, is a lot younger than me texting me being like, hey, I want to do
I
music,
want to do what you do, man.
Yeah, exactly. But Nick took the time to respond to me and sent out this like big long message about how, like what do you want? Like what are you trying to accomplish? Like why do you want to do music? I figure that out. And then, he told me, to things to consider. And then whenever I actually first started doing it, he said, the hardest thing in this business is longevity. People get burnt out. People, make mistakes, kill their career. People, blow out their voice. They go too hard. They start, they drink too much. They, get in trouble. It's the hardest thing in this business is longevity,
Yep.
and that stuck. It stuck with me. And there's things I still. I've definitely done things wrong. I've definitely made mistakes, and I've definitely, you feel like that your voice is invincible until it's not, and then you got to take a break and cancel the gig over it. It's
And that's
you
that's the worst.
yeah, but then
I probably only canceled like two gigs in my whole career for the first 20 some years. And there's some that I probably should have, and I hammered through them, and I probably got polyps as big as, you know, I don't know, baseballs back there that probably need to be cut out. But yeah,
yeah,
I
no,
mean, and it goes into the whole health, the mental health part of it too,
which is huge for me. That's what I'm still trying to learn my balance and figure out what I like to do, which I don't have management or a booking agent or anything like that. It's me, my little brother, my sister helps with emails occasionally,
there was a time when I would say, yes, you need those things. And definitely there is a time when it's appropriate. I had a really good friend. He worked for Luke Bryan, of all people, and remember when Luke Bryan used to do those big farm concerts?
hmm
Like that was my friend's job. Like he set those things up all the time, and I would always ask him like, man, when do we need to start shopping management? He goes, I'm gonna be honest with you. He goes, you don't need a manager until you need a manager. And then he said, but when it's time, when you're big enough that you need a manager, you really need to look at it and say, do I really need a manager? If I've gotten myself to this spot, like what can I do and who can I trust? And can I build like a little team around me of people that are willing to invest some time to where you don't end up, well, Jonathan Payton that play with Nick and them,
hmm
they've had some experiences with some booking agencies where they kind of got hung out to dry on some stuff. And, you're sitting on your hands waiting for these people to do this stuff they said they're going to do, and then they don't. And you're like, I could have been booking shows this whole time, but I've lost all this ground. This was after the Zach Bryan thing for them. So it's like,
yeah,
yeah, I think nobody's going to give more of a shit about what you do
than
than
you, yeah,
and I've had, and you have too, I'm sure, because you're telling me you had a well-written email that explains that I am my own person. I'm representing myself,
yeah,
and I sure could use their help or their consideration. Has gotten me more opportunities than any letter sent from William Morris or
yeah,
the talent agency. So
yeah. So that's kind of been my learning curve, I guess, is just figuring out how often I'm willing to be gone and on the road, and also thinking about the marketing side of things, like like we're talking, you don't want to overexpose yourself. You can't, if you have a decent following in Lexington and you know that you can make money in Lexington, you can't play there every month.
right.
You can't. And
And
I think,
that's a mature approach. Some people say every Thursday, let's go cash in.
yeah, see, and I can see where people, that where the appeal is in that, especially if it might work for 3 or 4 months, but as far as building up demand, it's just not possible if the supply is always there.
Yeah.
So that's what, I'm trying to think of things like that. And, I think it is getting to a point now where I am having to ask for help, but I've got siblings, I've got family members that are willing to help me out, and like this, especially with like the videos and the social media stuff. I'm lucky to have a little brother that took interest in the videography side of things and pictures, and is willing to go out on the road.
And he
Doesn't
gives you
have
help.
a family himself and
Yeah.
stuff too. You see, it's
Oh man, what a cool experience. Like
yeah, it was,
like if it all goes away, you and your brother have been hanging out, you know.
yeah. That's what I'll tell people that at shows and stuff here recently. We've traveled. I think now I'd have to figure it up after this Texas run because it added quite a bit to it. But I think it's somewhere around 70 to 75,000 miles that we have traveled together since we started doing this.
That's pretty rad.
And at his age, I'd been to like Florida and New York City, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
Well, tell me about this Texas run because you told me you were hunting whenever I messaged you. So what'd you get into down there?
yeah, man. So originally, how that all started was I had this feller by the name of Larry Taylor, not Larry Joe Taylor, but Larry Taylor,
Okay.
and he messaged me, reached out, and said that he does private shows at his house, and had sent me, a couple people that have played there, like J.D. Graham and Gabe Lee, and some names
Very
that I
cool.
knew, and
Yeah,
pretty cool
legit
guys.
stuff.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, heck yeah, I'll what he was willing to pay me kind of covered all my expenses and everything just to get out there. And I was like, if I could just build three or four more shows around it, then it'd be worth it just to get into the
Yeah,
scene. I've never been to Texas before, so it'd be cool to
Texas is
just go
amazing.
see it. Yeah. And so we ended up booking some shows, and I'm going to start trying to do this thing that I'm calling the living room tour. And I had some buddies that were able to help me put together a couple of those types of shows on the way out there. And once we were there too, and now that is like the concept of I'm going to come into your living room or your space, wherever it is, and preferably play unplugged
Yeah.
and sit down and talk to you and have, an intimate, like c- basically conversation and show at the same time. And
In a time when you can when 5 million people can see your video, I still think that the most impactful, interactions. Yeah, that's why I love like I've had a couple people say you should change the barn to an outdoor show and have more people, and you get. I'm like, I like I
I
like the
like the
tight
type.
little
Yeah.
200 people elbow to asshole, like
Yeah.
pin dropping, and you can hear it kind of thing. I mean,
Exactly.
I think that's a great idea.
Exactly. So hopefully that was kind of the goal with those, was to get enough footage and stuff that we can put together a little video and kind of promote it and start trying to, really put together some shows next year for it. And I think I'm going to do, custom t-shirts with kind of like a tour date t-shirts with these like
Yeah,
living room shows on it. So
that's awesome.
hopefully it works out. But we got down there and we played a couple shows and had some fun. And we got back to Larry's house. He's letting us kind of crash there while we were playing some other shows that were around the area. And he was like, "Yeah, no, he has, you know, tens of 10, 20, 30, 40 animals mounted up on the walls that he's hunted in New Zealand and Africa and, all over the place." And he's telling us all about them. And he got to this like goat looking thing. It's called an aoudad.
Yeah.
And he's like, "We got those down on the ranch." He's like, "You guys come hunt those if you want." And I was like, "When?" And he's like, "Well, how long you staying?" And I was like,
Well,
"Well, we don't
until
have."
we can go hunting.
Yeah, I was like, "We don't have to be in Tulsa until Friday." So we got kind of the week, and he's like, "Well, let's go." And so we went down to kind of South Central Texas, and we're just 30, 40 miles from the border, and went down to his ranch, and he took us hunting for a couple of days down there. And it was really cool. Me and Fisher both got a chance to shoot it in Aoudad, but see, here in Kentucky, we're big turkey hunters.
Okay.
That's kind of what I live for, is turkey season. And me and Dad and little brother go all the, we act like it's life and death out there, and
Yeah.
we've done
You
a
do the
lot of stuff.
stalking, like,
Yeah, we don't sit around. We're too ADD for that,
yeah,
but we've done a lot of stuff where we'll count down from three, shoot at the same time, and both get a bird, in the same hunt. And it's a little bit harder to do with rifles.
Yeah.
But we tried it anyway, and we ended up both missing. I didn't have a good shot, so I didn't even pull the trigger until after Fisher shot. But it was still fun just to kind of get out there and see the whole country and see how different Texas is from border to border
I was gonna
because
say, yeah, it's if you're
it's
just in the panhandle, it's like this is Oklahoma. Uh, I guess
yeah.
the furthest side we played South by Southwest one time, and I'd never been to Austin, and that was like going to San Francisco. It was totally
Yeah.
different than everywhere else in Texas.
Yeah, no, that was really cool too. We got to go to the mothership in Austin and watch a
Joe
comedy
Rogan.
comedy show. That's what Fisher's my little brother's a big Joe Rogan, big Kill Tony fan.
There you go.
And it was actually that's what I was trying to do for him was get tickets to a Kill Tony show because he's been watching it since it was, before it was the number one
Or it
podcast.
was
And
on in
yeah,
like Madison Square Garden.
yeah. So I looked and it's sold out for months and months and months in advance. But they had another show the next night that was like the best of the mothership or something, or the best of Austin. I don't know. But it was like all the local guys that were up and coming. You know, kind of felt like I read the details, and I was like, kind of feels like something that I would be a part of if I was in comedy. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was like, let's book that. And it even had like a little advertisement. It was like special guests, may appear and stuff. Well, we go and sit down. It's a lot of fun. It was cool. And then like the fourth act comes out is Tony Hinchcliffe, which is
Oh
the host
man.
of Kill
Yeah.
Tony, and he does his own set. And it was right after he spoke at the Trump rally, and he hadn't
Made
done
everybody
any.
mad.
Well, yeah, but he hadn't done anything public since then. And so it was kind of cool to see him come out and like address that and talk about it a little bit. And he's wearing like a bulletproof vest underneath his vest and stuff. It was wild, but my little brother loved it. He was, eating it
I
up.
made his
And
life.
yeah, no, that's what he told me thank you like 100 times after that. But
Like
yeah,
you
it
had
was
it
just
planned.
yeah, like I knew that Tony was gonna come out. But it was really cool, man. It was a lot of fun, and we had a good time. And we got to go to Tulsa afterwards and see Tulsa too, and then went to the Ozark of Arkansas
Oh yeah.
and got to play a show there. So
I
we
played
we
Lake of the
still
Ozarks. That's a beautiful place.
yeah, no, it was gorgeous, and the people out there are all super hospitable and nice, and it's just
They're not as crazy as like on the show Ozark.
yeah, exactly.
There's some of them, but there's
No,
some in Lake Cumberland too. So
that's the truth. I think there's some everywhere, but
uh,
turns out there's good people everywhere too.
yeah, real knows real. The good people will find you.
That's
Uh,
right.
Tell me about Wilted Flowers. Your new song out. You got a video with it.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was coming out. I think I saw that you'd post something, but then it was listed on a lot of you know, the announcement stuff, which was real cool.
yeah, man. That was this. I'd keep on talking about that to people that I didn't. So for one, like, so I got sponsored to have like my own EP done by professional grade in a studio by Jam Nation, which is an app that this guy from
Yeah.
Australia is trying to put together. And I've been thinking about that a lot and talking to people and trying to figure out who I want to be the producer and the engineer and stuff. And uh, it kind of seems overwhelming, and it's just this different monster that I don't know that I'm actually ready to tackle yet, but I still like, recording music and working on stuff that I am working on. And it's not that I just don't want to go into a studio and it not sound like I do live. And I don't want to go in.
You don't want to be produced.
Right.
You want a producer who makes it sound like you want it to sound. It
Exactly.
There's all different kinds of those guys, that's for sure.
Exactly. But so I got this buddy of mine that he was the first person to ever recorded a song with. And I think at the time he was like 16, but we had a mutual friend that was like had just graduated high school and still living in Somerset. And he was like, "You got to meet this kid that I know. He's been studying uh, recording stuff, and I think he's got a lot of talent. You got to come over here, and like it'd be a good place for you to kind of cut some demos and stuff." And I was like, "All right, sure." So I showed up, and that was before I ever really played my first few. Like I think I had maybe one or two gigs at this point, and I really liked what he did, and we kept on working together and like shooting videos and stuff. He'd come and like set up mics for me, and ends up after he graduates high school, he goes to Arizona to their recording school out there, which is like the number one in the country.
Yeah.
And he's interning at a place down in Nashville. It's the studio that George Strait just cut his most recent record with. But
Like Black
so he's
Earth or
so I remember it's like the Castle or something.
Way, maybe.
But he told me, he's like, whenever they don't have anything down here, he's like, there's a couple studios that I might have access to that we can kind of get in and just mess around. And that's what happened with Wilt of Flowers. I was down there for a gig, and my friend Lucy Becker, who's been playing some fiddle for me, was down there too. And Zach said he had a studio day, and so we walked in the studio and just kind of. I went over two or three songs, and Wilt of Flowers just came out right that day. It felt good. The energy was good, and Lucy sat down and played some acoustic lead and put some fiddle on it, did some harmonies, and we were in there like jingling keys and stomping the ground and just
Yes.
having fun and messing around. And I ended up really really liking how it turned out. And
Organic and
yeah, and so I told my little brother Fisher, I was like, let's go make a music video for this. Let's
which was very cute. You laying
Yeah.
on a quilt out in the still.
Yeah, so we kind of executed that and finally had it ready to go. And I kind of try to treat YouTube like almost like a preview or like a premiere type of thing, where I've got more following on YouTube that I feel like is consistent and organic than I do anywhere else. As far as like, that's where I had a video blow up, my song "Fucked Up Brain."
Yep.
It took off on there, and it's over 1 million views now. And then my cover of Cody Lee's "Can't Never Could" is over 1 million views. And so I just kind of
That's
try
your
to keep,
tribe.
yeah, well, I try to keep those people that helped me get there feeling like that. I appreciate them. So I always try to do everything on YouTube first. And most of the time, I don't ever release the stuff that I'm doing to streaming, because I don't know if that's just in my brain feeling like it's not good enough yet, or it's got to be perfect, or it's got to be planned out. But I was
I
talking
feel
to
like on YouTube you're giving it to your friends, and if you put it on streaming, like that's to the
yeah,
world.
now it's open for criticism and everybody to be like, it sucks. And but no, so I released it on YouTube, and it kind of felt like it had good traction. And I had just talked to my buddy Rich Henderson about putting music out and stuff, because I know that he's doing stuff pretty independent as well. And he's got experience in it. And I've also talked to Nick about releasing things, and both of them were kind of just like, if you like it, you like it, put it out. So I
Nick
was
and
like,
I were
man,
talking about the that DJ Jazzy Jeff video where he said "Die Empty."
yeah,
Like, look, man, just put it out. Like, and people may not find it for a year. You know, it may blow up next week, but it's like and a lot of times when you record something, it's kind of like a snapshot of that moment of time, right?
yeah,
So it's like there's been times where like you you really loved a song when you wrote it because it was speaking to something that was happening for you,
yeah,
and then you tour it for a year, and then you're like, Ugh, you know.
yeah,
But if you had dropped it right then, that's when it meant the most. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of ways of looking at it. I do think that nowadays there's no real formula like it used to be. You release music on Tuesday. Like that was,
yeah,
and now it's new music Fridays, and uh, it like there was certain times of year you shouldn't release music, and don't release it in December. You might as well just wait until the next year.
yeah, because then it's not
Man,
gonna,
man,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
like
So,
I don't know. There is no, you know,
well, that's another thing too, is I have people. I've got kids and stuff that are in it, or people that have been doing it for a while, even that'll message me and ask me for advice and stuff. And so I'm always appalled by it. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just,
you
I
know,
try
it,
to be smart about it. I try to think things
I,
through, but
there's nothing wrong with being with having like a plan, or like I've had releases where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna create a schedule from. It was more for me so
yeah,
that I could kind of get my head straight and go, okay, I'm gonna release a single on this date. I'm gonna wait 3 weeks and I'm gonna release another single. But that was for me. It was because I do feel bad about spending all this time on one record and releasing it to Spotify, and then it's like
And it's done.
it's
Yeah.
done. Okay, like they didn't buy it, they're streaming it, and I'm gonna get nano pennies for that. I guess it's over. Like I guess I start working on the next one.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
I,
for me, sometimes I do kind of just like stretch them out a little bit.
that's what and I don't know. I think that if I would imagine you're probably a perfectionist as to some degree,
Yeah, I have to like it. I don't mind
exactly.
the
Well,
mistakes, right?
right. Yeah. So that's kind of me with things is if, it could be great in the eyes of everybody, and if it's not great in my eyes, then it's not done yet. And I think that that kind of keeps me, from just going ahead and putting stuff out and doing stuff as quick as maybe some other people would like for me to. But
I do
I
think that
also
there's a backlash to like I'm not tired of Zach Bryan, but there's songs I still haven't listened to,
that's I just
right?
was talking to my buddy about that. I
I
since since his what was it 32 songs or something that he
yeah
put out that album. I can't remember which one, American Heartbreak or something.
yeah. I'm kind of out. I'm kind of checked out.
Same. I think that he's a phenomenal writer. I think he's a phenomenal writer, and the way that he delivers songs
I
is
think he's channeling a thing. Like I don't want to compare anybody to Bob Dylan, but he's channeling something right now where it's just he can't hardly write it down fast enough, and I that's really cool.
yeah. And I think that it's turned into kind of like a cool thing to not like him, and so that you get, especially in the artist world, you get
Especially on Instagram and TikTok with Dave Portnoy
yeah,
now too.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Don't
So
mess with chicken fry.
yeah, so that's where I don't know. I try to keep my comments to myself about all that, but I do I do think that there is, like, if you do have steam, if you've got some sort of, traction, then you do need to be kind of keeping people
Feed the algorithm.
engaged. But at the same time, like you're saying, if you put out too much at once, then it's like, oh, like we can't consume it.
Well,
It's
and you're right too. I mean, like saying it's cool to not like Zach Bryan. This is going to age me a lot. Everybody knows how old I am, but Hootie and the Blowfish, right? So I was a freshman in high school when Cracked Rear View came out. One of the best records of that era. It had
yeah,
many hits on it. It had so many hits that people are like, I'm so tired of hearing, oh, another song. Great. It's like you really got to kind of, I mean, I've never had that problem, but I do think there's a lot of I don't know. There's no science to it, but I think you do have to think about am I a one song a month person
hmm
or am I an album person? Am I an EP person or am I two singles and it's like I think there's still some strategy.
yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely like that's another thing too is that the strategy behind it, the time of year and how people are feeling and what the feeling of the song is, and I do think about things like that, and having a video for it, is kind of like putting the last piece of the puzzle together. I hate putting stuff out before I've had time to kind of put thought behind the video, because that was kind of, I fell in love with photography and videography too, and kind of, you know, had to beg my little brother to start doing it with me. And now that he's like taking it over, I've kind of,
You need an extra hand.
yeah. And so he's kind of taken that aspect of it over. And but I still like to do a lot of the editing, especially on my own stuff. Like I've got this certain idea of how I want it to look, and so I'm doing,
You've already seen it.
yes. And so he's out there shooting it for me, and then I'll spend a week and a half, 2 weeks editing it and trying to make it look the way that I want it to, and then we'll have to
See
go
that?
back and
See that's cool because again, you're coming at everything as an artist, so it's like the packaging has to represent a certain thing, like the album art and the way that it or the artist you choose to do it, like it has to be. I mean, even with the barn, like I curate uh the person who does the flyer because that matters to me. Like,
yeah,
like the
yeah,
artist, I think it's really cool that you're that you're looking at the video as much of a representation of the story as the lyrics.
I think it is. I think the people that truly, you know, love the artist side of things, that's how it's how most people consume art these days is through visual media, which is, YouTube is the king of. And so, like you're saying, like we're talking about those, intimate shows, like as far as a performance goes, that's my favorite thing in the world to do. I've always said if you put me in a room full of 30 people and they're willing to listen to me, I'll walk out there with 29 fans because one of them's deaf. But,
I
uh, but
get
with,
look, and I still say that's the best way to build a fan base. That's the best way to build your career.
yeah,
Is
no, I definitely agree. And there's a lot of people out there that are doing it that way. But I think you also, if this day and age, you have to be willing to put stuff out on the internet and make it, you know, interesting enough
well,
that
I think
people,
you could record yourself singing, and that would probably work too. But you're
yeah,
taking a little bit of extra care to to curate an experience with
right. Well,
the
that's, and that's also this. I'm lucky enough to have had some classes in college that have taught me some, and I've had a mother that was, a semi-professional photographer growing up. She always had a camera in her hands, and so she taught us a lot, and it just turned into something. Like I said, it's a piece of art in itself again, but the potential that it has to gain a following or gain fans is so much greater than
than Spotify.
than Spotify or even playing a show in front of 100,000 people. If you play a show in front of 100,000 people, you might leave with 10,000 new fans or something,
Right.
and that's kind of the end of it. Those people might go tell another person, who tells another person. You end
Well,
up gaining fans that
perfect
way. But
example. About 30 minutes from here, my hound dog is barking. About 30 minutes from here is where Old 60 is from.
yeah,
And I mean, they literally shot a cool video at the pizza
that's yeah.
place where they worked, you know?
That's the point that I'm trying to make is that that video just never stop working.
Yeah.
It's working when you're asleep.
Working now. Yeah,
It's working right now.
and they had to learn songs to go play shows.
Exactly.
Didn't know enough as a band. Oh,
Yeah. So that's what I'm. Yeah. It's hard for me. My dad's big on it, and my dad's not a very technological advanced person. He's not. He's worked in the pawn shop his whole life. He's in a tree stand probably up until 30 minutes ago,
yeah.
and uh, he keeps on telling me, so you need to stop being on the road so much, spend more time making videos. He said,
He's not wrong.
he's not, and I'm starting to see that too. I make enough off of streaming and YouTube to be able to know that like my bills are going to be paid at least for the month, and then shows and stuff like that on top of it are how I have savings and am able to kind of invest it back into myself, buy new merch and stuff like that, and so the more that I spend time working on those videos, the more that I'm making from those,
Yeah.
passive income type of things. And then the more time that I have to kind of sit back and do what I want
You
to
said it.
do.
You said it. I mean, I watch the video when my wife falls asleep. Then get on YouTube and I start looking at stuff. And after we've turned the office off, and I watched a guy talking about like your passive and active income. Like I had to look at it and I'm like, I make a whole lot more money when I'm painting more
Hmm.
when I'm doing commissions than I am when I'm going playing shows. I
Yep.
like playing shows probably more than I like painting, but it's like that's when you start saying, okay, I'm going to spend this many days a month doing this thing, and then maybe it pays for the other thing.
Yeah. And I think that's like I've been saying, I'm trying to be, figure out how to be more efficient and figure out, what it is that I'm willing to do and how I'm willing to spend my
You're
time.
trying to get the most gas mileage for Hunter's time.
Exactly. And, just keep keep myself happy. That's what there for a minute, me and my little brother found ourselves bickering and fighting on the road, and it turned into like a stressful thing that we weren't really looking forward to going out and doing it. And there was one time it kind of came to a head, and I was like, dude, what are we doing? Well, why? This was fun. This was fun, and this is why we did it. And if it's not fun, then like let's stop.
Let's take a
Let's
break.
quit. Let's quit. And he was like, yeah. And so this past time, we had some time off and kind of came at it in a different light. And we're like, we're gonna come out here and we're gonna do the things that we want to do. And when we're
You know,
playing the show, it's different. But
I remember. I mean, because it's still going to be work. There's a certain element of it that's always work, and I remember, like, it was real easy for me because I had three kids at home and a wife who was taking care of everything and was being awesome about letting me do it, right? But she didn't want me to call talking about how good of a time I was doing either, or or how good of a time I was having. But it was real important that if I was going to be gone, that I needed to take advantage of those situations and get off the interstate and stop and see a place that I wanted to see. Like we went to
yep,
Tom Sawyer's, the house where he lived in Hannibal, Missouri. It was an hour out of the way going to Oklahoma City, or Kansas City, but it was like it was worth it.
it's
Like
worth it.
that
Yeah,
was the whole thing. Like the experience, because all the bars look the same from the back door and from the stage,
yeah,
but it was like if you just stay on the interstate, you don't see shit either. So, it was, yeah, I think that's important. And man, I think it sounds like you're wise beyond your years, and you're doing a lot of things the right way, and not making some of the mistakes that old guys like me made early on. So,
yeah, man. I'm trying. I'm trying. That's kind of what that whole bring it back to wilted flowers. It's kind of what that whole thing was about. I didn't know what I was writing about when I was writing that song. I was still in my previous relationship that I'd kind of been in and out of for the past 6 years, and it was just I wasn't really sure what I was writing about. And then after we ended up breaking up, I realized that it was a song about falling out of love, and it was about falling out of love with
lots of
playing shows. Yeah, with playing shows on the road. It's about falling out of love, you know, in the relationship that I was in, and just kind of
there's hard stuff, man. I mean, I remember being like negative $400 to the world one time, and
yeah,
it's like, man, what am I doing? But I had a show to play that week, that
yeah.
night. It was like, all right, like, you dust yourself off, but you go through that stuff, but it's also, it seems like you had a lot of fuel for the artistry, and a lot of that stuff is what's helped you come up with. I mean, almost dying, having a friend that passed away, dad owned the pawn shop. You've got lots of stuff that makes for really good material for songs, and but it sounds like you're being smart about it. Tell me what's coming up, man. Like what's I saw you've got some regional shows coming up.
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to stick around home kind of for the rest of the year, at least a little closer than Texas and places like that. But
Yeah,
we got uh playing opening for Sunday Best, and then the Creekers are
that's
playing
kind
with
of a
us.
nice full circle
Yeah, man,
playing with Nick and Chris.
yes, exactly, and especially with it being Sunday Best. I love Nick. He's become like the older brother I never had, kind of in the past 10, 15 years, and it's been really cool to kind of watch him navigate it all. But Sunday Best was the soundtrack to my high school years, man. I did a lot of dumb shit and had a heartbreaks and fights and stuff to the tune of Sunday Best. So
Yep.
it's kind of a bucket list moment for me, and especially with it being at Renfro Valley.
You just
I've
right up the road from
yeah, right up the
you.
road for me, and I've heard of that venue my whole life and never had a chance to play there yet. So that'll be cool. That's the 16th,
Okay.
and then on the 21st or 22nd, I can't remember right now, but I'll be down in Nashville with Britt Taylor and Adam Chaffins, and
I
that'll
just played
that'll
with
be
them last weekend. They're super cool.
yeah, yeah, they're cool, man. I met them down in Americana Fest, and I'd heard of Brit's music specifically. I knew that Sturgill had produced
Yeah.
some of her stuff, so I checked it out a while ago, and I didn't even realize that it was her when I was meeting her until after the fact, and so it was really
That's kind
cool
of
that
cool though.
yeah, it was cool because she was
And
just there
Adam's
listening.
got a new
So
record out too.
that's right, yeah. So I've been checking his stuff out, and I don't know, I'm excited to go down there and kind of really get to have a conversation and talk to him
Where
because
y'all playing at?
well, I think it is if you hadn't asked me, I've been able to tell you. I th- I think it is maybe the. It's not the basement, and it's not.
Like Brooklyn Bowl or
I
we
don't know. I'm gonna
fans,
have.
viewers, you can get on his Instagram or on his
Yeah.
website and find these dates.
Yes. Yeah. No. I'm kind of like put it in the phone, put it in the calendar, and then it's out of sight, out of mind.
There you go.
But and then
Where can people find stuff?
hunterflynn.com
Okay.
or Instagram, Facebook, where I keep those pretty updated. Um, then after that, I actually haven't announced this one yet. I'm doing a hometown show in Somerset on the 29th, Black Friday.
Oh, very
So
cool.
I've got two other uh, up and coming musicians they're gonna be playing that are also from Somerset, and I think it'll be kind of a cool little end of the year type of celebration. We did it last year and it was real successful, and we sold it out and had a good time. So
Very cool.
I'm
Hometown
excited
show's
for that.
always good.
Yeah, yeah. And then I've got a little run with Cam Clark, which
Yeah.
I'd
I
never heard of
I met
Cam.
him last week too. So yeah, he's a super cool guy.
Yeah,
He played solo with electric guitar and it was rad.
yeah. So like I said, I'd never heard of him until I was approached for this run with him, and they sent me his EP that he had just put out, and I went and listened to it, and I was like, "You guys want me to go and tour with him?" I
Yeah.
was like, "Yes, sign me up."
Yeah, he's
So
rad.
yeah, no, he's awesome, man. He's got his production quality and just the arrangement of his songs. It's all so unique, and I feel like that he's
Yeah, it's
got a
it's different,
very
man.
very bright future in front of him. So I'm
It's hard to
excited
be
for that.
different, but man, isn't that kind of what we're all trying to do?
Yeah, no, I feel like that he has found what he likes, and he has found his own thing. So I'm really excited to see it in person. But we're hitting Duke's Indy in Indianapolis, the Monarch in Louisville, and
I may have to make the Monarch. That's
the
close enough to me. I can pull
I
that
know
off, I think.
I love that. I love that little place. I got to play out there earlier this year, I think, with a couple of guys. I got to play out there with Luke Trimble and I'm blanking on my other buddy's name right now,
He's
but
not watching it.
it's
He
all right.
Yeah, he'll be
he'll
fine. He knows who
he'll
he
forgive
is.
me too. He'll forgive me.
Yeah.
But no, I love that place. I'm excited for that. And then we're gonna hit the Backroom Lounge in Riverton, Illinois. I don't know if you've ever made it up
Yep.
there or not,
I
but
haven't, but I know it's a great listening room.
oh yeah, yeah. I've played out there 4 or 5 times now, and every single time it is filled to the brim, and you can hear a pin drop the whole time. They got a great sound guy. Jeb puts on a great show. He's got a
Yep.
great group of people to come out. So
Heck yeah. Well, man, listen, I knew the least about you of probably anybody that I've had on this, and I've learned the most and probably had the best conversation. So I appreciate you taking time and out of your busy schedule. If you don't go deer hunting this weekend, if you do, send me a pic if you get something good. I've got a 10 that's been out here running does this week that if he's
need
too
that need that temperature to drop down.
well, it's supposed to. It's supposed to. So we'll see what happens. Uh, oh, they're dumb. They're out there chasing tail. He'll screw up. But man, the best of luck to you. I can't wait to see what happens, and I'm really excited about you continuing to put out some music here. Hopefully, real soon you'll get us something new.
Oh yeah, I'm working on it.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks so much, guys. Go check out Hunter Flynn. He's one of Kentucky's finest up and coming singer songwriters, and check out his dates. He's coming close to you. Go check him out and tell him hi. Tell him you saw him here. So, Hunter, have a good day, buddy, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. See you, man.
All right.